My name is Rob Love, the Wolf of Radio, and you're listening to Debatable Truths, where all truths are debatable, objectivity prevails, and mediation occurs. Welcome back to another episode of Debatable Truths. On the Lone Wolf episode, I talked about how impossible it is to put a whole group of people in the same category when using the word all. All white people, all black people, all politicians. Just a few examples. They say the black neighborhoods are all dangerous. I disagree. But why do we even have neighborhoods? I thought the objective in life was to coexist and to live one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So why are there still Chinatowns, Jewtowns, urban neighborhoods, rural neighborhoods? Because we really know what those really mean. Don't. Today, we'll share a previously recorded conversation with a guy that I was introduced to by CB, our co host, who's also the producer of this episode. Now, remind you, we've never met. We've never even had a conversation until this one that I'm about to share with you right now. And also, I've still never even seen his face because he's so anonymous. I don't know why they so anonymous, CB, Mama, and all of the other guests. But you get to see me live, direct, and in full effect. But hope you enjoy. Let's listen.
You're only the second white person on the show, period, so far. I mean, it's only been 10 weeks, but still, 10 weeks is a long time that I've asked plenty of people to appear on the show, and they respectfully decline. But Lord knows, we wish we had more to start, just like you were saying, have those uncomfortable conversations. Because there's so many topics that people want to know the answers to. How does this person feel, or how does this race feel? I mean, yeah, you can't speak for the whole race, but tell us how you feel. Tell us what you think, what your experience was, and maybe we'll still learn something just from you, and it might enlighten more than just us, as minorities, black people, or whoever is a listener on this show, but enlighten others like you too, because you have an opinion, and somebody in this world respects your opinion. So once they listen to it, then they'll understand when we feeding off of each other and giving each other the vibe or the positivity, or even if it's negative. Sometimes, you never know which way it's going to go. But still, as long as you have a little bit of objectivity in you, then maybe it'll at least be enlightening, whether you agree with it or not.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think that it's unfortunate that you try to open a forum up or a line of communication and try to say something. And people, we keep seeing the same things happening over and over again. We keep seeing the same things transpire. And every single time there's this insanity that always ensues, right? It's a mixture of media. It's a mixture of anger, frustration. It's a mixture of confirmation bias. If I see exactly this is what I knew to be, so it's exactly what I see it is. And so everyone picks their line in the sand, and then you stand on it. This is my side. That's your side. I don't give a rat's rear end what you're thinking, because it doesn't matter. It's not important, because I already know what the truth is and you're wrong. And there's the conversations and the stuff that happens. There's a lot more in that situation. There's a lot more to talk about. And instead, we just want to sit around and throw rocks at each other. And we just want to continue to say, everything's fine. No, everything's fine. Everything's good. We're good. And I don't think we're at high times, racial tension, that kind of stuff. But I think there's a lot of stuff to be said for learning and improving. And what I always, take from the manufacturing world, continuous improvement, lean, we have to continue to improve the systems and the things. And that means we have to learn, we have to become uncomfortable, and we have to say, no, that this isn't working. Let's try this. Let's talk about this. And by not having that conversation, we just smooth over, everything goes back to quiet, and then boom, then gasoline hits the fire again, and then we're right back to where we started. But then no conversation's been had, nothing has been learned, and both sides are still standing in their corner. And that doesn't win for anyone, man. That doesn't win for anybody. It just sucks. It's just an endless cycle of stupidity. Sorry, soapboxing over here. I apologize.
We're at a stalemate if nobody, first of all, want to even have the conversation, and then be able to stand in, take the blows, try to defend yourself. Even if sometimes it's not even about defending yourself. It's just make a statement so a conversation starts. If you're not even having a conversation, I saw it. It was a post going out. I can't remember. It was about around the time right before COVID hit. It was a black judge. He was invited to City Hall to speak with the mayor, the police and people that had rank. This pastor, one of the well-known pastors in that city, he left the meeting immediately once he said that the mayor stated, he started off by saying, this is the problem I have with you people. He said, and it's black. But listen though, see the black pastor, he left the meeting immediately because he felt that, well, if he can address us as you people, then we're already on the wrong foot because he's clearly racist because he references us as you people. My take on it is, well, that's great. I'm actually excited. I'm appalled. I'm thrilled to know that that's his lingo and that's who that person is. How can you fix something or fix a person that you even assume is racist if you don't communicate with them to find out how they really think or what their persona really is? So for you to leave the meeting tells me something about you more than it does about that guy. The mayor sounded to me like he's actually being himself and he's not hiding behind his title or his rank. In this setting, I'm going to give you exactly who I am, and either we learn how to coexist, or you give me an alternate way to move, at least when I'm around you. And I'm not trying to talk about he needs to be safe, but at least know how to talk to people that he considers you people.
Mm-hmm. I tell you, it's funny when you say it. Not funny, haha, but just funny. Like when you think about the language that has sort of continued and sort of has permeated through our society. Because even me looking up as I grew up. To give you a little background, I grew up blue collar father. He worked at a steel plant for 30 something years. I grew up in a small town, Texas, 800 people. Very tiny, probably 99.3% white, with very little sprinkled in there. And there are things that you sort of learn growing up, things you say, the way you say things, all that sort of verbiage is stuff that I've had to go back in my head and I've had to rewrite and think about not seeing things a certain way, not seeing things through those lenses, and having to tell myself, that's not how you should see people. That's not how you should address people. That's not how you should talk to anyone, and it's so hard, I think, when you look at history and you look at people in general. Most people hate change. They don't want to change. And so that language itself, I think, it's not just so much the racism as it's sort of the intrinsic, it's always been that way. So it's okay for me to say this. And that guy thinks that it's okay to just say it that way. And I guess for me, if I was the gentleman sitting across the table, I would kind of have a hard time with hearing that. And if someone says you people, and it's kind of become that sort of like joke when you say you people, because everyone knows it's clearly offensive. But some people still don't see that, and I think it says so much to who we are and our cultures and how we come up is we have sort of this ingrained thought process of how we talk and how we treat people that I think becomes intrinsic to our nature. And it takes it takes conversations to sort of say, okay, I'm going to take this part out and recognize that what I've just said was wrong. And I think probably to your point, the guy walking out probably was the wrong thing. You probably should have started with, well, let's just start with the you people and let's work from there. Let's talk about why you shouldn't have said that to me in the first place, and there could have been a different conversation of like, first of all, saying you people is wrong. Like, you can't just go you people as if like, because when we're addressing, especially a mayor or a senator or congressman, or whoever, when you're addressing people in general and you say we the people, you're talking about the American people. You're not talking about black, white, green, blue. You're talking about American people. So you can't go you people and say that, oh, black people are a completely separate group in America. And I think that's the problem is we've grouped everybody in America. You're either here, you're this, that, or whatever. And so it's okay in your mind to go, you people, because and to me, that says something of you're not even recognizing them as American citizens. You're not recognizing them as equal partners in society. And to your point, that would have been a good thing to just kind of slap the guy over the head and say, well, you've already started off on the wrong foot there. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the guy would have listened.
Yeah, and that's correct. He had so many different roles he could have taken at that. He could have, addressed that right off the bat and cuss them out, whatever his method is to address that. Or he could have even made light of it. Because, we have all the jokes when somebody, even comedians, they come out with like, you people. We always, what do you mean, you people? He could have, he could have taken that route. But to your point, when you're talking about, like briefly mentioned, it's kind of like a segregation. You're talking about, well, you're not actually citizens, or I'm not saying that you said it, but
no,
that's how a lot of black people feel that we're not treated as Americans or citizens or a valuable part of society or something like that. And that brings to the reason why we came to this topic. They sent a challenge out. I don't know if you were able to see the new challenge first, but it was a post on Facebook, I believe, by Derek Muhammad. I'm not sure who Derek Muhammad is, but it was reposted by a well-known author, and that's where I saw it. But the challenge was, he put out a new challenge in all caps. I have an internet challenge for you. Find one black-owned business in an Asian neighborhood. Now, I immediately responded to that because I didn't really understand how was that even a challenge. My response was, well, let's have a real challenge of actually having us as black people owning our own building in our own neighborhood. Like, how many people, because we don't have people that we have black business owners. And if you Google, black restaurant or black boutique, it's going to give you a list of the business. But when you go to that business and talk to that owner, they're going to tell you that they're leasing the building that their business is in.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you really? Yeah, you are a business owner, but are you really? Because you're still a tenant. So, I think it's more about how can we, I'm just speaking just strictly black people owning property, owning land, because that's not happening. So for you to say, oh well, let's say let's have somebody black go and open up a restaurant in the Asian community, Asian neighborhood. Well, my other question is, why do we even have neighborhoods? Why why are we segregated? Why are we? This is the black people. This is the black neighborhood. This is the white neighborhood. This is you know, you will even say this is a mixed neighborhood. But why do we even have neighborhoods? What's that all about, and how can we fix that? Because maybe, just maybe, if we get rid of neighborhoods, we can proceed to something that looks like equality. What's your take on pretty much all of that? I know that was a mouthful.
Well, I mean, I agree with your initial thought on the challenge, find a black-owned business in an Asian neighborhood. And I just, in my mind, thought, well, you know, when you're targeting people or you're targeting a business and you're looking at a certain demographic, you got to kind of know the demographic well, and you got to, you know, so I didn't get the point of that, I guess, because just like you said, I didn't get it. I didn't understand where the value was in that, because if you go into an Asian community or Asian neighborhood, as you said, it's mostly Asian people that own the restaurants and the clothing stores and everything else, because it's a cultural thing in a lot of ways. And so, yeah, to your point on that one, I didn't really, it didn't resonate with me as that was a good challenge or something to focus on. I think, like you said, the ownership, owning your whole business, doing your business, and like empowering people, because, you know, you build a business, you've got a target audience, right? And if you're a smart business owner, you're going to go where you know the clientele.
Right, and that's to your point. How would you even know, while not being Asian, going into an Asian neighborhood, what type of product that will interest an Asian in their neighborhood, so that you can succeed as a business?
Yeah, I mean, yes. And how would you garner the respect of the community too? Because there is a bit of a deal where people kind of look at, like, what the hell you know about making dumplings? Like, what's your background in, you know, pad thai? You know, like, people are going to really look and go, "Do you sure you know what you're doing here?" Like, I mean, they're gonna question a little bit there, and unfortunately, that is what it is. But yeah, I just, that question to me, I was having a hard time, and I think you saw in the thread, I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to add to this part of the conversation. I don't get the question, because there's so many other topics and things you could have a challenge for and then highlight and have some positive stuff come back. But I don't know where that comes out positive for anyone or how that even looks. I mean, your question about neighborhoods and the sort of segregation of neighborhoods is, if you will, because you have a little Chinatown, you've got a, you know, all black community, you got an all white community, you know, you have these, you know, pockets where everyone lives. And I think that goes to a more interesting question of what keeps coming up time and time again. And depending on what video you watch, when you talk about generational wealth and you talk about the black community. And I mean, one of the most striking things, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of skidding off, but one of the most shocking things to me, especially as a veteran, was I did not realize in World War II that 1 million black men came home and did not receive the GI Bill for housing, for college, or anything. And you look at that from a generational standpoint of 4 million white dudes come back, they get all of those benefits, they get those neighborhoods, they get the college. And you think about 1 million black men that did not get that. And then you think about the generational impact that's going to have. It's not saying that you still can't be successful, but some bitch, you think about the generational impact that would have, and you sort of see, like, well, hell, that would create a problem. Like, you would have some generational gaps there because you didn't get the advantage that you were due. And that's not even going back to reparations. That's you fought in a damn war. You know, you had rounds fired at you. You wore gear. You fought in the name of the United States of America, and you earned that. That was an earned deal. That was yours. That was 100%. You can't pull any BS on that. And as a country, we didn't do that. That's a black spot. It's, well, sorry, that's probably the wrong terminology to use. Sorry. That is can't help it. Jesus. But that is a bad thing when you look at our record, and that is something that a lot of people. And I actually showed my dad the video that goes through a lot of that stuff, and he turned the video off, not because he didn't believe it, but I was shocked. He actually goes, "I never knew half that stuff." Well, hell, when you see that, and then you start, so to your point, you start talking about generational wealth, and you talk about those gaps, you have to find a way to help a community build those same things so that they can move into a nice neighborhood, so they can have it, be at a nice school. And to your point, why is it some schools don't receive the same funding, the same educational benefits, the same stuff? I mean, why are we putting the money in the neighborhoods where the money clearly isn't needed? And I mean, a great example for where I live is we have a beautiful elementary school that my daughter goes to, and 2 blocks away is another school. And it is a little night and day. It is night and day. It's not the same. The building doesn't look the same. And I'm thinking, man, and I didn't know about that. A guy during a march next to our neighborhood, a BLM march next to our neighborhood, actually brought that up. He goes, man, all you white people show up, man. Y'all show up now. Your asses didn't show up when we needed this or that, but now you're showing up. And it's a great point. Like, I didn't even know that was there. I drove by it 100 times. I did not know. And I'm like, how is it you're not the same? Why are you not getting the same stuff? To your point, it's like, why is that? Why are we allowing that to continue? Because that is a gap. That is a huge gap, because education and opportunity are the two things that destroy poverty and crime and everything else. If you have access to education and opportunity, you're going to do better, and you can build a life. Everyone can build a life. But I think that's the topic of, that question point. The challenge should be, who is building a business? Who is building generational wealth? Who is doing more in their community? Who is giving back? And how are we stopping these gaps? And that should be the challenge question. What are those highlights? What are we doing? And how are we helping out? Because even me, I don't do shit that I should do. I should do more. And a lot of times it's kind of confusing about where can you help out? Because even from a cultural standpoint, I'm a white dude, man. I try my best to ask as many questions as I can without it being rude, to try to learn more, to try to understand, because I obviously don't. I mean, I ran a inner city Target, and I can tell you that was a hard job, because here's a hillbilly. And fortunately, I was in the military, so you learn a lot about different walks of life. But I always tried to understand where people were coming from and kind of where they grew up, and knew that my life, although not easy, and I grew up in a trailer house, and I had to work my butt off to get to where I was, but it's a different struggle in those inner cities and what those kids deal with, and kind of how their value systems arrange, and what how they had to take. I mean, I fired a kid, and he cussed me out from the time I asked him for feedback, or whatever. And he cussed me out all the way up the door, and I never said a word. I never broke a deal. I kept my face. And I said, that's okay. Yep, I got it. Understand. I mean, he called me every name in the book you can imagine. And we got that front door, and that kid looked at me and goes, all right, well, thanks. And he shook my hand and gave me a hug. And that kid just needed someone to scream at, man. He wasn't a bad kid deep down. He just didn't have the right opportunities, didn't have the right people there for him, and didn't have those opportunities that, you need to be able to get out of the situation you're in. And sorry, I went completely sidebar, but yeah, the challenge itself that we talked about, I didn't get how that was a value add challenge to look for,
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the stuff that you hit on is so crucial and pivotal in the Black community. And the way you see it now is how we've seen it from the beginning of our days. We've always known segregation. We've always known this is the Black neighborhood, this is the Black school, or predominantly Black. That's the education that we're going to get. Now, we think we still value our education, and we think that it's going well and we're doing good in it. But we also think, well, we can compete with other schools. We can compete with other schools. And you think about it this way too. Back when sports and athletics was actually segregated, teams like Jackson State University, Grambling University, Southern, where there were all of the top-notch, professional, college athletes, all had to go to the HBCU, historically Black colleges and universities. Yep. They were powerhouses.
Yep.
What if we did in your school right now, Alabama? Okay, if 70% of the players are Black, those are the skilled positions, and those are the ones that dominate. What if they all decided not to go to Alabama and decided to go to Jackson State because prime time is the coach there now or something? Now where are you? Do you allocate resources to that school now because they have a powerhouse program, or should it be equally distributed amongst all the universities regardless? That's another topic because athletics gives the revenue for a lot of the schools, and it actually kind of runs the school based off of athletic attendance and all that stuff, and TV deals and boosters and all that stuff. But I mean, that's not to say that the basics, especially on the academic part, shouldn't have a type of fund allocated for them and kind of equally distributed.
Yeah. Well, you're hitting on an interesting topic in general, though, when you talk about the amount of revenue generated by programs, and when you think about them kids that are playing at those programs, I wonder, how many times one of those kids, showed up and playing ball. They were a phenomenal player, and their education wasn't really the priority so much as the football was the priority, or the basketball, or whatever was the priority. And then that kid got hurt, and they had a career-ending hurt. And then that college just forgets about it. And then they go back to wherever they came from, and there's no way to have a life because they lost their ability because their focus was on that, and everyone else was focused on using them for that. And I think you know where I'm going with that. And we didn't value the individual for who they were and what they could become. We valued them for their athletic capabilities, not actually trying to give them a future that was worthwhile. And you talk about the amount of athletes who lose their ass financially, make millions of dollars, and wind up broke. And it's because the focus is so much on the athletic stuff in general that, and I'm sidebarring here a little bit, man, and stop me if I'm off topic, but it's valuing someone for a gift that they have, but not helping give them other tools along the way as well. So I would say a lot of them big schools, I wonder how many, you got some athletes that get taken care of over time and schools look after or whatever, but not all of them. How many forgotten athletes have gone back and they have nothing? They have nothing now. They lost everything. The school did not continue to push them and continue to let them, hey, you're not just here for football, you're here for an education. That should be your priority, and now we just left you behind. And of course, a lot of them kids, once they lose that scholarship, they can't afford Alabama or Texas A&M or some other place like that. They've lost their only way to pay for that school. And so for me, I don't know, I'm an Aggie, and also I've got a master's from A&M, and I've got a bachelor's from Texas State. And I value the academic cred that a school has. I'm glad when the football team's winning, but the football team does not add value to my piece of paper that I got from that school. It's what they do academically that matters to me in the long run. And I think that's the thing is I think it's great to have kids go to football programs, support football programs, but don't forget about them kids if they get hurt or something happens to them, because you've just taken their one chance to walk away from something that from where they're at, you've taken this kid and you just let him go right back to where he's at. And that's ridiculous. And that could be cross spectrum. That's not just necessarily one race on that case. That's across the spectrum, but it's unfortunate that we're using people just for their ability. And that goes to even more deep-seated race thing. When you talk about, I love you on Friday night, but I don't give a shit about you on Sunday, Exactly. And I think you've seen that too.
Yeah, right.
So, we'll treat you like a person on Friday night. We'll scream for you, cheer for you. But come that next day, nope. Don't you come to my house. Don't you eat my food. Don't you date my daughter. And don't you, don't come around here, And so that, that's my problem with athletics in general, because it's a place where, people shine real well, but then they shine and people look at them just for what they're doing and not for who they are as a person. And you're missing it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Basketball, they're at a somewhat of a crossroad. It doesn't happen often, but it has happened before. They'll they have to go to college. They have to be out of high school 1 year removed from high school. So they have to play 1 year of college basketball now before they can go pro. And if
Did
they're
not know
good
that.
enough, they're going to do it. They're going to change that rule again so they can start leaving out of high school again. But it's going to be like a little farm system type thing where they can go to the NBA G League first and still be a millionaire in that league. As coming out of a high school. But they used to be able to, go to college first semester. They'll go to class during the first semester because they have to. They have to be eligible for second semester to play. So academically, they'll go ahead and go to class for the first semester, and then they never even go to class in the second semester because they know that they're going to the league, and they fail. That's a failure of the system. That's a failure of everything that goes into the reason why you even have athletic and the term student athlete, because you just failed that kid. He had no chance to even consider getting enough credits to graduate. Not saying that it was on his mind or he cared about that anyway, but you failed him because you didn't even give him a chance. That's nonsensical to me. But it happens, understand it, and it goes down. Now football, they have to play 2 seasons, I think, before they can leave out. I think 2 or 3 years removed from high school or something like that. But they got the what's it called? The insurance policies now. So they have $1 million insurance policies for college students that's playing football that have to go back to school in case and if they get hurt, they're still insured because of their talent level.
Wow.
So yeah. So
I did not know that. That's the first I've heard. That's interesting. I mean, that's a good thing, but it's just it's kind of crazy. That's wow.
That's insanity.
But isn't that
insanity?
It's a deal, though. Come on, with basketball, it's a handshake deal. The school knows what they're getting, and the player knows what he's getting, and the coach knows what they're getting. The coach is going to get a winning season. They're going to get a sneaker. The college has a sneaker deal. The player is going to play for this coach who's going to get them prepared for the league and showcase their talent, and then they're going to be off and running. It's a handshake deal, especially with basketball and with football. Matter of fact, let's just be blatantly honest with this. When it comes to college, it's a handshake deal when it comes to top-level athletes. They put them in BS classes anyway.
Oh, no doubt. And I'll even attest to that myself. I went to Norfolk State University. I went out there for a visit. These jokers had me work out for the team. They wanted to sign me the same day. I was like, dang, can I get a chance to think about this? but the good news is it's free. So you get to go to school for free, play Division I, yada, yada, yada. But the first question I asked them, this is without looking at the academic guide or, the manual or something like that, the criteria. Do you guys offer mechanical engineering? They were like, yep. I didn't check. So I went on and signed because I was like, oh, Junior Beach, they got women. What you say the ratio was again? This is a young 19-year-old kid transferring from out of junior college in Mississippi. All right, what you say the ratio was? Women to men? Yes, I'll sign. So you sign it, you get there. They don't have mechanical engineering. And then what the coach tried to do when I first get there? Put me in his class. He's teaching special physical education. What I look like majored in math, applied math, because that's the major I ended up doing. That was because I was a math person. So I'm majoring in applied math, and you telling me you want me to take physical education or whatever the name of his class was as a math major. Bruh, why would I do that? And where they do that at? So I'm not understanding, but can you imagine all of the athletes that's not academically inclined? Mm-hmm. They're going to take that class. Oh, they taking that class. It's the coach
You're a
class? How
commodity.
can I fail? And I don't have to show up.
Yeah, you're a commodity. They don't care anything about you. And that's the unfortunate part with all athletes. If they don't come from a family or have mentors that understand the value of a college education and ensuring that you take the right classes, in their mind, I went to college and you took piecemeal courses. And let me make sure I'm clear. I'm not clowning a communications degree, especially if that's what you focused in, but they'll send these guys out here, they'll give them BS courses all the way through and get them enough to have a communications degree, but they can't apply it to anything. They don't have the requisite skills to go on a job with that degree, but they were used for basketball.
Oh yeah. The top majors for basketball players, at least on my team, were physical education, mass communication, and psychology.
Yeah. Well, I think that goes back to my point about, how do I value you? What am I actually trying to do with you? And I think that, the deal is you're going to get a BS education. We're going to get a winning team. And then you'll probably, hopefully you'll go on to play in the pros and, things will be great. You'll make lots of money. But that's not the case with everybody. Not everybody has that happen. And so to me, it's devaluing the person and the human because it is such a transactional deal. And I'm not saying that, a job, it's a transactional thing. I get a job, right? You're going to pay me X amount of money because I'm supposed to do X. And I get that. But you're getting hosed because that transaction is really going one way. And great if you make it to the pros, if you're lucky enough, you don't get hurt and you get the money. But if you don't make it to the pros or you do get hurt, then that transaction actually wasn't in your favor because you performed, you scored touchdowns. Maybe you weren't the best in the world, but your team won, you got whatever the case may be. But you lost out on a real education. You lost out on the thing that would be most valuable to you outside of that program. So outside of that uniform. And to me, that's not a fair shake because you're actually getting less in that transaction than that college that's having you play. And it's known. They know they're getting something more than you're getting, because you're risking your body, you're risking your potential, and then you're not going to get the one thing that you really should take advantage of there. The thing, whether it's, getting a finance degree, a business degree, whatever the case would be, or getting something that you can actually use in the event that said football career doesn't work out. And to me, to the point is, most families, like my dad, didn't know what degree I should take. My dad never went to college. I mean, I literally was stumbling around trying to get into college. So you look at all the kids out there that are going and getting those, they don't know, and their family doesn't know, and they may not know what the best path is for them forward. Or even someone saying, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? If it's not football or not basketball, what do you want to be? And I think that's an important conversation because that should be part of the transaction. Okay, great, you're going to play football for us, but in case football doesn't work out after college, what do you want to do? Let's put you in the right path for that and set you up for success because you as a person are getting screwed on that transaction because you're actually not getting your full salary, but they're getting everything out of you.
Oh yeah, that's why we keep talking about money for paying the players. Mm-hmm. It's not really about paying the players either. Because when I was in school, we didn't care if we got a salary. We were worried about if we were going to eat that night. Because like me, math major, if I got practice at 6 o'clock in the morning, then my first class is at 8. Then I got to go to the next class. I'm in class all day. Then we got practice where we got to go run, do cardio at the end of the day. And then we got practice after the cardio. So, man, we just did practice, work, class, running, practice. And when we get finished, the chow hall is closed. They giving us wrappers, bologna sandwiches, and apple. They might throw an orange in there, and that's our food. Boy, we were so hungry. If we didn't have one of the little rich teammates on the team that buys pizza almost every night, we wouldn't be eating. So we like, man, at least give us some per diem, whether we on the road or not. And then on the road, the per diem wasn't enough to do nothing. Like, we wasn't eating well. We wasn't having caviar, steak. nothing like that. We were eating at McDonald's.
And that's what
I
athletes
pulled
need
up.
before a game. It's a McDonald's.
Yep.
That's our show for today. We try to keep you entertained. And as you can see, CB joined in on us on the tail end of that conversation. We only cut it short because it got into a more in-depth conversation between CB and Ben himself. We'll share that episode with you at a later date. But I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on the show. If you have any suggestions or anything or topics that we talked about already that you would like to comment on, or a topic that you would like for us to discuss. And if you even want to join the show, just give us a holler. And appreciate you for listening.